GQ on the heavies yesterday spoke on Matthew Stafford and spoke on kind of the problems that Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua will pose. Here's those clips.
Should Lions fans be a little more nervous about Stafford coming home?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just gonna call it what it is. Like, guys, I see these numbers, and I'm sure everybody else see it as well. But the two top receiving seasons in the history of the game, Calvin Johnson and Cooper Kupp, Stafford was the quarterback. Mm-hmm. The top rookie receiving in the history, Stafford was the quarterback. Like, this guy can sling it, man. We've seen it firsthand as Lions fans.
Yeah.
We've appreciated it. He didn't lose it. Everything you loved him for when he was here, he still can do it. Everything you hated him for when he was here, he still can do it. So if you felt like, oh, Stafford don't run as much. Oh.
Speaking of these guys and what they're walking into, you know, obviously we got Stafford coming back to Ford Field, but you look at the receivers that the Rams got with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, who's breaking all kinds of rookie records. How would the secondary get prepared to go against two guys like that in this matchup? You know, they're going to get theirs, but how can you contain them in a matchup?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, you know, when it's two guys, that's all it really takes, you know. Two guys, but they run the ball as well. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they got a tight end he's decent as well. So, I mean, I think the thing is we can't give up the big plays. You know, we got to make Cooper Kupp really work for what he's going to have to get. And I think Brian Branch would do that. But we can't give up the big plays, and we can't let Puka get big plays. You know, the big plays that happened in his last game against Minnesota was very concerning to me. You know, not just because they were big plays, but it was just, how do we leave Justin Jefferson, the best wide receiver, one-on-one, to just run past one of our corners?
There you go. GQ made some good points there. And I think it's funny. He was, when they initially asked, he was like, "Yeah, you should be scared of a little scared of Stafford." Which, you know, GQ obviously loves Stafford, so and he's unbiased, so he's just giving his opinion, which I respect. The other thing with what he said, and this is why I brought up my concern, is the secondary. If I had to pick one, it's clearly the secondary, because he's right. They love Justin Jefferson one-on-one, and that's a problem. That is a huge problem. Now, here's the difference. You leave Justin Jefferson one-on-one. Let's say you try that same thing with Puka Nacua. Let's say they put a safety over the top. You still got Cooper Kupp, who's just gonna death by 1,000 cuts. Like I know Cooper's been injured, but it's still freaking Cooper Kupp. So that's my biggest concern. But what stops that is what? A pass rush.
Yeah.
Which this Rams offensive line isn't. You know, they're not world beaters, and Matthew's not mobile, luckily, but he gets the ball out quickly, and he's got. Talk about arm talent. Matthew's up there. He different angles. He's not mobile, but he gets the ball out quickly. So at least you have that going for you. He's a kind of a statue in the pocket.
Sure.
So for Aiden, Aleem, all these guys, they're going to get hopefully James Houston back. We'll see if he plays. They'll have a plethora of pass rushers. That's going to be the other key, is just getting pressure on Stafford. Again, stopping the run, of course, because that's what sets up these big plays to Puka, to Cooper Kupp. But I do think that helps the Lions that he's a statue.
Oh, yeah.
That definitely helps.
Yeah. I'm going to get into what Glover Quinn said in a second, because I think he said something that was very, very wise. But if you're not worried at all about the Rams and Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, I don't think anybody is not worried about them at all, because in every single game the Lions have lost this season, they've given up a huge game to a quarterback, or a huge game to a quarterback and a number one wide receiver. You look at the Seattle game, gave up a huge game to Geno Smith. And the Baltimore game, gave up a huge game to Lamar Jackson.
Was it his best game. Or no, he did have 4 or 5 touchdown passes.
It was
against the Dolphins.
one of his 2 best games of the season. The 2 games that I would say propelled him to really win the MVP, gave him the stat line to do it.
Right.
He gave up a huge game to Jordan Love, and they gave up a huge game to Jordan Love, the Lions defense, and the season high in receiving yards to Christian Watson plus a touchdown. They gave up a big game to Justin Fields and lost, including a 38-yard touchdown from him to DJ Moore. Jerry Jacobs was on the coverage in that one-on-one. And they gave up a huge game to Dak Prescott and lost, and gave up the only 200-yard game of the season to CeeDee Lamb. So this Lions defense, their secondary has helped cost them some games. And of course, I don't even have to mention that they were torched by Justin Jefferson twice. They were torched by Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert once, and won all 3 of those games. So it hasn't always cost them. But Glover Quinn said something that I actually think could be a factor in this game. He said that Brian Branch might be able to do something against Cooper Kupp, and that's where and that's what I think might be their saving grace, or at least keep them up afloat in some ways, because this season, the majority of the snaps that Cooper Kupp has played, he's played out of the slot, which is to the surprise of no one. He does line up outside from time to time, but the majority of the time he's a slot receiver. To me, from what I've seen from the numbers that I've been able to acquire, the best cover person for the Detroit Lions this season has been Brian Branch out of the slot. He hasn't always been burnt toast, and I get it. Cooper Kupp is a slot demon. He is one of the best in the game at that, but I think Brian Branch will be able to limit him to some degree, not stop him, limit him. What worries me, though, is Puka Nacua, because Puka Nacua, he also plays in the slot, but the vast majority of his snaps have been taken as an outside receiver. The vast majority of the damage he's done, the damage of being the all-time rookie receiving yards leader, has been from the outside. And the Lions' outside corners this season, over the totality just over the totality of the season, not in any specific game, just over the totality. I know the Lions are winning. I know the defense is better, so it hasn't been highlighted as much. But the Lions' outside corners this season have been dog poo. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. I'm not trying to be a dick. And another thing that a lot of people aren't going to want to hear, and I know it's not all his fault. I know the pass rush hasn't always done them any favors. Cam Sutton stinks. Cam Sutton stinks. He is not a number 1 corner. He never will be a number 1 corner, and I hope that they can get someone opposite him next year. And I know Cam Sutton had some decent games early on.
Stinks is a little aggressive.
Yeah,
Hold on. Come on. You think I don't have numbers?
Okay,
You think I'm just saying shit
All
just
right,
to
give
say
me the
shit?
numbers. Give me the numbers.
Cam Sutton, when targeted this season, has given up a 113.9 passer rating. He has given up 60 receptions for 889 yards and 5 touchdowns when targeted, including 4 times in which he's given up over 80 yards when targeted. You know what those games were? Chargers, both Vikings games, and Cowboys. What do those teams have in common? Keenan Allen, Justin Jefferson, and CeeDee Lamb. And Puka Nacua this season, he's been on those guys' levels to some degree. I know he's not as good as CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson or Keenan Allen, but on this season, he has had a better rookie season than any wide receiver in history, at least by the numbers. So that is where I think that is where my worry goes in. And of course, Kindle Vildor, he's been he's not really that good either. His numbers aren't very favorable. Jerry Jacobs hasn't played lately. He kind of lost his spot. He hasn't been very good. And Khalil Dorsey in his limited playing time hasn't been very good either. But even Cam Sutton, the guy the Lions were kind of counting on, the guy who had some good moments at some points during the year, has not had a good season at all. The numbers just play that out, and when you watch the games, he's burnt toast more often than you think. I'm not saying it's all his fault. I'm just saying that that's where you have to count on the pass rush to get home. That's where you have to count on Brian Branch doing a decent job against Cooper Kupp in the slot. Because I don't trust Cam Sutton, I don't trust Jerry Jacobs, I don't trust Kindle Vildor, I don't trust Khalil Dorsey as far as I can throw him against big-time wide receivers. And Puka Nacua on the outside, at least this year, is a big-time wide receiver.
Yeah, and Broder chiming in here, our Detroit Lions beat reporter. He says, ask Sam who's the best DB tackler on the team. I didn't hear that stat. I'm assuming it's Cam Sutton.
Okay, okay. Covering receivers is more important than tackling. When you are a number 1 style corner,
that is fair.
Deion Sanders made his entire legacy off of covering. He was famous for not wanting to tackle.
Yes,
and I'm not saying,
that's
and I get it. Deion Sanders is an anomaly. He's one of one in history, probably the best cornerback ever, one of the best defensive players ever. I'm just saying that Cam Sutton, he's one of those guys that we think has been good. We think has been decent, but for most of the year, especially going against CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, and Keenan Allen, which they're going to get their numbers against a lot of people, but if you're going up in the playoffs, that is one of the weaknesses that I see. This isn't just like a crap on Cam Sutton hour. It's just highlighting something that I think has gotten a little bit glossed over because the Lions have had such a good year and their defense has been better. As I said before, the Keenan Allen game didn't cost the Lions. The 2 Justin Jefferson games didn't cost the Lions. They won all those games. And even if you want to include the Chris Olave game, that didn't cost the Lions. They can give up a huge game to Puka Nacua can have 200 yards for all I care as long as the Lions win. They've shown they can do something similar to that before. Hello, Justin Jefferson. I'm just saying that Matthew Stafford is a better quarterback than Nick Mullins. Matthew Stafford isn't going to make those careless turnovers. I know that he's done that a few times in the past, but Nick Mullins is a backup. Matthew Stafford is a potential Hall of Fame starting quarterback. That's a different animal.
Jay says that's what happens when you put a number 2 corner at the number 1 spot. I agree with that. This comment, Roger says Sutton did good in Pittsburgh because they had a much better D line, which obviously helps.
Yeah, T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith getting to the quarterback, which helps a lot.
No, but that doesn't. And I agree with Easy. He says Easy put. Sutton isn't great, but he doesn't stink. He just can't guard the greats. Which is, but you nailed it, Sam. It's CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, guys that are having huge games. Now, I saw a comment here, and this isn't my intention at all. Danny G says, you guys are slowly convincing me that we're going to lose. No, that's not what we're doing. I asked the question to Sam, what concerns him? So he told you. If you didn't like the answer, well, I asked him. So that's the answer. Now, on the flip side, this Rams defense, I don't think they're going to be able to stop the Lions offensively. I know they have some guys that, especially on the defensive line, young guys that are getting after the quarterback, like a Kobe Turner. Aaron Donald still has 8-9 sacks this season. They have some guys on the defensive line. But this is why you have the best O-line in football, right? This is why you have the two-headed snake in the backfield, the 2 running backs, Dave Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I think it goes both ways. We could bring up, the secondary is concerning, but on the flip side, this Rams secondary doesn't really have any big names either. So, I do think, really, both offenses are going to be able to score points. That's just my opinion. The question is, though, and that's why I brought up the pass rush, is how much pressure are you putting on Matthew Stafford? Because that's where these plays start to open up. As much as we want to talk about what concerns us, and it's the Lions secondary, on the flip side, though, I am confident this Lions offense can score. I think who's guarding Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Do you know who's
doing it? Good luck out there.
Yeah, right. Nobody's guarding Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to have an even bigger day than Puka Nacua, for the record. Although I think Puka Nacua is in for a big day, but I don't think it's going to end up mattering. I think a couple of key players in this game. I know we're going to break it down the rest of the week. You know who I think really needs to show out in this game offensively? I need better games out of Graham Glasgow and Jonah Jackson, because the interior of the Rams defensive line, you've got Aaron Donald, you've got rookie Kobe Turner, and then if you even want to include Byron Young, another rookie who has 8 sacks. He's probably not going to be as much of a factor when it comes to the guards, but still, they have a good interior of the defensive line. Of course, Aaron Donald, he's not quite in his prime, but he's still one of the best in the game, and I think in his prime, he's the best defensive player who's ever played NFL football. So it's the guards are going to have to step up and play big, which they have at points during the year. It's just as the season went on, they had a couple of, I would say, unoptimal performances. But yeah, what's crazy about the Rams defense? Both Kobe Turner and Byron Young are rookies, and they both have more sacks as rookies than Will Anderson does. And I love Will Anderson, and I predicted a historic rookie season out of him. He didn't quite have that, but he was still very good. The Rams have 2 of them who were not nearly as heralded, who have stepped up huge this year. That's been one of the keys for the Rams. Mm-hmm. Coming into the season, it was just Aaron Donald and the no-name defense. A lot of us haven't even heard of some of these players. Football junkies like us hadn't heard of some of these players because a lot of them were rookie, later-round draft picks, but they've stepped up absolutely huge, and that's one of the reasons why they've been able to make the playoffs. I know their offense has probably been more of a factor because, speaking of unheralded rookies, Puka Nacua, but that defense has been a lot better than I think people thought they would be. At least you had more people stepping up and becoming big players than you thought they would.